I read on the internet that A Few Acres of Snow is not worth playing because it is broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
Broken. Don't buy it. However, apparently I am not smart enough to figure out. I refuse to read strategy articles on how games are broken, and I can't figure out how it's broken. So,
well, let me just say this before you get into your thing. To everybody that likes to play a game 50 to 60 times just to find out how you can break it.
All right. Well, anyhow, for the most of you, for the rest of you,
yes.
For those of you who don't play a game 800 times attempting to find the ultimate strategy in that particular game, this review's for you. Here's the board as it starts, and you can see that each player has a few cities and towns on the board, or villages. The cubes are villages, and then when it goes up to a nice town size, it becomes a disc. But this is what you start with. Players will also get a starting hand of cards. You can see here's the British set, which has a card for each city that they have. And the French player has the same thing, but they also have some cards, some different cards. And here you can see they have a trader and a regular infantry. And one of the important things to realize about this is that this game is an asymmetrical game. Players have different cards in their opening decks and different cards as the game progresses. So what players are going to be doing is, at the beginning of the turn, they're going to be drawing certain cards from their deck, which is small at the beginning of the game, and, well, it remains pretty small as the game progresses. But you're going to do actions, maybe with the cards or something else from your deck that you might want to do. One of the most common actions is to take a town that's nearby. So let's say I want to go from Pemaquid here to Fort Halifax. To do that, I need to play the Pemaquid card, and then see, to go to Fort Halifax, I need to play a card with a boat symbol. If I want to go to one of these cities, I need to play a card with the ship symbol. If I want to go to another city that's not printed on here, well, I can't. So I look at the rest of my cards in my hand and I say, oh, here's a card with a boat symbol. So I play these together, and now I have captured Fort Halifax. When that happens, I'm going to go through a bunch of cards I have here sitting at the side, which show every city on the board that I can capture, and I find the card for Fort Halifax, which has no symbols on the bottom, but it does allow me to go to Kennebec, the next town on. So I add this to my deck. So there's all different cards that you can capture, places that you can capture and add their cards to your deck. Sometimes the cards are worthless, other times they can be really handy. Like, for example, Baltimore, I can just discard this card and take money. That's another action that you can do, is you can discard a card with money on it for money. There's other cards that you can get. One of the actions you can take is you can go through this deck of cards, which is not location cards. These are other cards, and take one in your hand, or take one into your, take one in your hand, and sometimes the card costs money. So this one costs 2. This is where money comes into play. It costs money to buy more regular infantry, while the Rangers, the Rangers cost money too, but the trader is free. And a trader is useful because I can use a trader later on to discard other cards from my hand that have that fur symbol on, and I get $2 for each one. So one of the things you can do is go to a city. Sometimes, though, you need to pay settlers. There are settler symbols where, for example, here's one on Boston, where you have to use that to go into these areas that have settlers on them. You will also use these settlers later on to upgrade one of your towns into a larger city, which is worth more points as the game progresses. And so that's what you're kind of doing for a lot of the game, is you're moving around exploring and finding these. But the game is, in essence, a war game, so you're going after the other player too. And there's 2 ways to do that. One of the ways that you can do that is by simply playing a raid card. Now, a lot of the way to play a raid card is to play a Native American card. Here you play 1 money to use this card to raid or ambush. Ambush is trying to get rid of cards from your opponent's hand. Raid is simply to destroy a settlement that they have on the board. And you can play multiple of these cards, and if you do so, you have a successful raid unless they play a card. Like, for example, they have the same one here, block 1 ambush or raid. If I had this card in my hand, I can play it to block the raid. If I happen to have the location card of the area you're trying to raid, I can also use that to block the raid. And you say, wait a minute, where did this green card come from? That's because if you notice there's 3 green cards over here. These are common to both players. They can get more settlers to use to settle cities, Native Americans, and then fortifications. Fortifications can be used to place a fortification symbol underneath a city so that it's more difficult for your opponent to siege. Speaking of sieges, that's the other main way that you can go. If you can move into another person's area that they control, you have to do the same thing that you did before. You play the card that you're coming from, you play your mode of transportation, and then you have to play at least one military card. Now, sometimes ships can be used as military cards. It depends. If you look on the board here, you can see here that if I'm going to go after Halifax, and let's say the French player's in it, and I'm the British, and I wanted to go after Halifax, then I can use ships as my attack. Now, when that happens, I'm going to look over here. Each player has these, and I'm the British player, so I'm going to place, let's say, for example, I place a militia here, and that's the way I start the siege. So I go up to the British siege track here, and the defender always starts with 1, and sometimes more. Halifax doesn't give any more, but sometimes they do. That's what those fortifications are for. And then since I played 1, it starts here. If at the beginning of your turn it's in your color, you've won the siege. Right now it's in nobody's color. So let's say the French in his turn plays a militia card and moves it 2 spaces over here. Then on my turn, I'll play 3 total, move it over to 1. The French doesn't do anything on his turn. Then on my turn, I play some British infantry that move it over 2 more. The French still doesn't do anything on his turn. On my turn, at the beginning of my turn, it's in the red color of my side, so I've won the siege. When you win a siege as the attacker, you take the city. It's yours. You replace it with your color, and you also keep the cube, just like you would do in a raid, or the disc, what have you. And then also the loser, whether on the attack or defense, has to lose permanently one of these cards. An interesting thing that the game has, in effect, is when you capture one of these cities or take one, you get to put this card in your deck. When you lose a city, the card does not come out of your deck, but you can't use it either. So when it comes up in your hand, you cannot use that card. Now, there is a way to discard cards out of your hand. That's an action you can take. Or there's even a card that lets you permanently take them out of the game, which you might need to do. And sometimes you do it even if you know, like with Kennebec here, I get that out of my deck because it doesn't do anything for me. And other cards might not be as useful as others. You just got them kind of as a stopgap. At the end of the game, you're going to get points. And by the way, the game ends when either one player has captured a certain amount of cubes and discs from their opponent, or when there's not much else to do going on in the game at that point in time. But when the game is over, you're going to get points for each victory point. These are the numbers and hexes that are next to cities that you control. You also get points for the towns and cities that you have on the board, and points for the towns and cities of your opponents that you've captured. The player with the most points is the winner. So you can see that expanding quickly and to get to some of these more valuable cities is important, but at the same time, you can't afford to leave your flank undefended or they will take those from you. If you've ever played Axis and Allies, you will know that there's certain strategies that you should take in Axis and Allies. For example, when you're the Russia, you must take out Germany as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. If you're Germany, it's your better bet to go up against Russia than it is to try to take out England. There's just different strategies that are, once you play 1 or 2 times, are really obvious. Yeah. And a few acres of snow, the obvious strategy is, I have no idea.
Right.
It is really open-ended, I think.
Yeah.
It's a deck builder. Which, when I first told Sam, he was really like, oh, great.
Another one.
But this is a different deck builder, and there's one thing I really like about this game. In most deck building games, you buy cards hoping to get that ultimate combo. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. But in this game, you can combo because you can save cards in the reserve.
The reserves.
And that is a really great idea, and I bet you other deck building games are going to steal that. You watch. In the next year or two, we're going to see other games take that. They're going to have this
expansion.
You may keep a card here for the future.
Exactly.
So we're going to see that happening. But is it a war game? I mean, it definitely is a war game.
It's a war themed game.
But we didn't play. I mean, there's a lot. The sieges are battles, of course, but you're just placing cards down, trying to outplace the other guy. It almost felt. I don't know what the word is for it, but it felt like a more maneuvering game. I'm just trying to outmaneuver Sam.
Yeah.
But definitely take that. Those raids.
Yeah.
Bam, bam, bam. And when the one time you can raid and they're not ready, you just took your town.
Yeah.
And the idea of capturing a town and then that town giving you a card to put in your deck, That is one of the coolest mechanics I've seen in a game in a long time.
Although I think it's kind of, I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but it's hard to get some of those towns, especially for the English. The French have a little bit more of an easier time because they're not settling, and I thought that was a cool thing that they worked into it. The English were settling their towns. The French were not so much, and that's a historical thing. So that's very cool.
The sides are very asymmetrical. Or asymmetrical. I mean, very different. The English start out, they're rich, they're stronger. The French are in a better position, though, and have an easier time working with the Indians to conquer. And they also can get to a lot of cities before the British can. But if they delay at all, the British are just going to pile drive them, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's very... I hate using this word to describe a game, but it's an elegant design.
Oh, yes, it's so elegant.
But really it is. And it's the kind of game that I think that my wargamer friends would play with me, and I'll play with them. There's no dice, which might detract it for some people.
Elegant.
Okay, fine. But it really is. It's just, it plays so smoothly. On your turn, you go, I'm going to do this. Your turn. I'm going to do this. You know, take these two actions. And they're very simple and easy. You don't sit there usually and go, I don't know what to do yet, because it just flows. You're like, I need to get that town. I need to move over here. I need to settle this.
Yeah, it does have that aspect of you have only a certain number of cards in your hand, generally speaking, and so there's only a couple things that you know that you can do, and now you got to just choose which one is the best for you to do at this particular moment in time. So it's not a brain burner, so to speak. Planning in the future is there, though. You have to plan ahead with that reserve spot. Otherwise, you're just not going to get ahead. But great theme. I love the French and Indian War theme, and I think they capture a lot of history in this box. So if you're a history buff and you enjoy that era, this is a definite pickup for you. It is not difficult to play at all. You'll be able to pick it up very quickly.
So I will give this 2 scalped thumbs up.
Wow. You have hair growing on your thumbs? Interesting.
Well, my dad always told me the first sign of
Old
incompetence was having hair on your knuckles, and then when I would look, he would say the second sign is looking for it.
I looked for it.
But anyway, I'm just saying that's what my dad said. But anyhow, a good war game, very easily one of the best designed games of 2011, I think. And while Sam and I will not break this game, unlikely, we will be trying alternate strategies in the future.
You can only break this game if you try to break it.
Oh, you
if
can do
you
this.
just... but it's not broken, it's still here. Right. Anyway, I'm going to give this 2 British muskets up. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm going to try to procure my own copy of it, because I think this is a game that my wife will actually enjoy too.